Keep in mind that when we shaped that interim deal, Prime Minister Netanyahu made almost the precise same speech about how dangerous that deal was going to be. And yet, over a year later, even Israeli intelligence officers and, in some cases, members of the Israeli government, have to acknowledge that, in fact, it has kept Iran from further pursuing its nuclear program. Now, the deal that we are trying to negotiate that is not yet completed would cut off the different pathways for Iran to advance its nuclear capabilities. It would roll back some elements of its program. It would ensure that it did not have what we call a breakout capacity that was shorter than a year's time. And it would subject Iran to the most vigorous inspections. And verifications regimes that have ever been put in place. And the alternative that the Prime Minister offers is no deal. In which case Iran will immediately begin once again pursuing its nuclear program, accelerate its nuclear program. Without us having any insight into what they're doing, and without constraint. And his essential argument is that if we just double down on sanctions, Iran won't want to do that. Well, we have evidence from the past decade that sanctions alone are not sufficient to prevent Iran from pursuing its nuclear ambitions. And if it, in fact, does not have some sense that sanctions will be removed. It will not have an interest in avoiding the path that it's currently on. So the bottom line is this: we don't yet have a deal. It may be that Iran cannot say yes to a good deal. I have repeatedly said that I would rather have no deal than a bad deal. But if we're successful in negotiating, then, in fact, this will be the best deal possible to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Nothing else comes close. Sanctions won't. Do it? Even military action would not be as successful as the deal that we have put forward. And I think it is very important not to be distracted by the nature of the Iranian. Regime's ambitions when it comes to territory or terrorism, all issues which we share a concern with Israel about and are working consistently with Israel on. Because we know that if, in fact, they obtain a nuclear weapon, all those problems would be worse. So we're staying focused on the central issue here: how do we prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon? The path that we proposed, if successful, by far is the best way to do that. That's demonstrable. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has not offered any kind of viable alternative that would achieve the same verifiable mechanism to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. So I would urge the members of Congress who were there to continue to express their strong support for Israel's security. To continue to express their strong interest in providing the assistance Israel needs to repel attacks. I think it's important for members of Congress, on a bipartisan basis, to be unified in pushing back against terrorism in the region and the destabilizing efforts that Iran may have engaged in with our partners. Those are all things in which this administration and Israel agree. But when it comes to this nuclear deal, let's wait until there's actually a deal on the table that Iran has agreed to. At which point everybody can evaluate it, we don't have to speculate. And what I can guarantee is that if it's a deal I've signed off on, I will be able to prove that it is the best way for us to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And for us to pass up on that potential opportunity would be a great mistake. It's not one that I intend to make. And I will take that case to every member of Congress once we actually have a deal. I'll take one question from Julie. Go ahead. Question: now that you've had a chance to read the Prime Minister's remarks at least, do you feel like the speech he gave was appropriate, considering his upcoming elections and the upcoming deadline? And you also talked to other foreign leaders today. The call on Ukraine. Did Iran come up at all? And are you expecting any signs of support from them vis-a-vis your position versus the Prime Minister? President Obama, no. All the folks on the call today share my position that we should see if we can get this deal done. It was not a topic of conversation. With respect to the decision of the Speaker to offer up the House chamber 2 weeks before Mr. Netanyahu's election to make this case, I think that question should be directed to Mr. Boner. As I said, it is very important for us not to politicize the relationship between Israel and the United States. It's very important for all of us Americans to realize that we have a system of government in which foreign policy runs through the executive branch and the president, not through other channels. And I think it's important for us to stay focused on the problem at hand. And the specific problem that is being debated right now is not whether we trust the Iranian regime or not. We don't trust them. It's not whether Iran engages in destabilizing activities. Everybody agrees with that. The central question is, how can we stop them from getting a nuclear weapon? And what we know is that if we're able to get a deal, not only do we cut off all the various pathways for Iran getting a nuclear weapon, but we also know that we'll have a verification mechanism and an inspection mechanism where if they cheat and if they engage, in a covered program, we are far more likely to see it in time to do something about it. What I also know is if we don't have a deal, as Prime Minister Netanyahu suggested, in fact, he's right that they're not trustworthy. They intend to pursue a covered program. And they cheat, we'll be far less aware of it until it is potentially too late. What I also know is that he made the same argument before this current interim deal. And even officials in his own government had to acknowledge that Iran has, in fact, maintained their end of the bargain. So what I'm focused on right now is solving this problem. I'm not focused on the politics of it, I'm not focused on the theater of it. And my strong suggestion would be that members of Congress, as they evaluate it, stay similarly focused. All right. Thank you, guys. Barack Obama. Polish Freedom Day 25th Anniversary Address. Delivered June 4, 2014, Castle Square, Warsaw, Poland. Hello, Warsaw. Witage, Polsko. Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, Madam Mayor, Heads of State and Government. Past and present including the man who jumped that shipyard wall to lead a strike that became a movement. The prisoner turned president who transformed this nation. Thank you, Lech Walesa, for your outstanding leadership. Distinguished guests, people of Poland. Thank you for your extraordinary welcome and for the privilege of joining you here today. I bring with me the greetings and friendship of the American people and of my hometown of Chicago. Home to so many proud Polish Americans. In Chicago, we think of ourselves as a little piece of Poland. In some neighborhoods, you only hear Polish. The faithful come together at churches like St. Stanislaus Kostka. We have a parade for Polish Constitution Day. And every summer, we celebrate the taste of Polonia. With our kielbasa and pierogies, and we're all a little bit Polish for that day. So being here with you, it feels like home. "25 years ago today, we witnessed a scene that had once seemed impossible, an election where, for the first time, the people of this nation had a choice. The communist regime thought an election would validate their rule or weaken the opposition. Instead, Poles turned out in the millions. And when the votes were counted, it was a landslide victory for freedom. One woman who voted that day said, "There is a sense that something is beginning." To happen in Poland. We feel the taste of Poland again. She was right. It was the beginning of the end of communism, not just in this country, but across Europe. The images of that year are seared in our memory. Citizens filling the streets of Budapest and Bucharest. Hungarians and Austrians cutting the barbed wire border. Protesters joining hands across the Baltics. Czechs and Slovaks in their Velvet Revolution. East Berliners climbing atop that wall. And we have seen the extraordinary progress since that time. A united Germany. Nations in Central and Eastern Europe standing tall as proud democracies. A Europe that is more integrated, more prosperous and more secure. We must never forget that the spark for so much of this revolutionary change. This blossoming of hope, was lit by you, the people of Poland. History was made here. The victory of 1989 was not inevitable. It was the culmination of centuries of Polish struggle, at times in this very square. The generations of Poles who rose up and finally won independence. The soldiers who resisted invasion, from the east and the west. The righteous among the nations, among them Jan Karski, who risked all to save the innocent from the Holocaust. The heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto who refused to go without a fight. The Free Poles at Normandy and the Poles of the Home Army who, even as the city was reduced to rubble, waged a heroic uprising.